HM for an initial permanency hearing. Is the mother Caressa McClelland present?
Yes, sir, I am.
Thank you very much. And what about Matthew Oliver? All right. If somebody sees the name, let me know. I do not. No answer, nor is anyone presently in the waiting room. All right. Thank you, Ms. Walker. You may call your first.
I call Kayla Walker.
All right.
And how are you related to this case?
I am the CPS caseworker.
First of all, where is the child currently placed?
The child is placed with a family member
And how's the child doing in that placement?
she was just placed on Monday with family. Right now she is having some spit up issues, but overall she's doing well.
Okay. Is she seeing any doctors or healthcare providers in regards to the issue she's having?
Yes, ma'am. She just went to the doctor yesterday.
Yeah. And is there any follow-up or treatment that the doctor is recommending?
Yes, so she is going to have a follow-up appointment. Her milk was changed, and so they want to see how the milk she's going to do on the milk. She does have a diaper rash, so we're following up on that.
Okay. What is the permanency goal for the child?
It's family reunification.
And have there been service plans created for the parents in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
And starting with the mother, has she started any of the tasks that's required in her service plan?
Yes, ma'am, she has.
Okay. And what items has she initiated?
She maintains regular contact. She participates in parent-child visits. She completed parenting. She did an ADEC assessment and did the recommendation, which was inpatient treatment, which she did 28 days. She also now is in outpatient. She started outpatient February the 1st. And she had a psychological.
Okay. And were there any recommendations as a result of the psychological?
Yes, ma'am. Counseling, parenting, and the Burke Center.
Okay. And I believe you said she has completed the parenting. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And has she gotten set up with her counseling and with the Burke Center yet?
To my knowledge, she has
And
not.
at this time, would you say that she's in compliance with her service plan?
I would say she's partially in compliance.
Now, have you had any contact with the father?
By text messages, that's it. That's all.
Has he initiated any of the tasks in his service plan?
No, ma'am. I have asked him he stated that he didn't want to work any services until he has a DNA testing. I have set him up to DNA test twice and he's failed to participate.
Okay. Do you feel it's in the child's best interest at this time to remain in her current placement?
Yes, ma'am.
And also, do you feel it's in their best interest that the department continue as the temporary managing conservator?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you also feel there would be a continuing danger at this time to the health and safety of the child and contrary to her welfare if she were returned to a parent or parents today?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness, Shauna.
All right. Thank you, Ms. McPherson.
Yes, Ms. Walker. Has my client provided you with her paycheck stubs?
Yes, ma'am, she did.
Okay, so that on the permanency report where she was not in compliance because she didn't have proof of employment. That one is off, correct?
At the time of the report, it was not accurate because she just provided it last week.
Okay. And is the counseling that's recommended from the psychological, is that in addition to the trauma informed, or is the trauma informed counseling considered to also, would that meet the requirements of the counseling from the psychological?
It will meet the requirements, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you know if she's set that up yet, or is there any issues with getting that set up?
From my knowledge, she just happened to set it up.
Okay. And victim services, is that also something that she needs to, do you know if she started, set it up, or that she still needs to set that up?
She still needs to set that up.
And what is that again, Ms. McPherson?
The victim services?
Okay.
And has she provided you a transportation plan?
No, she hasn't. She did give me a copy of her driver's license, but no transportation plan.
Okay, because you said she did, so I was
Well,
wondering.
she has her driver's license, but how she's going to get around, I guess at the time we was just saying she needed her driver's license. But
And then she also needs to, has she indicated to you that she's done the research on the effects, but she needs to turn that in?
no, to my knowledge, she hasn't done it.
Okay, so that's, and as far as the transportation plan, so because she's here, you know, it's indicated that she did it. What do you need to have on a transportation plan?
To make sure she can get who's going to take her to her services and her parent-child visits. That's what I need to know.
Okay. And has she participated in every parent-child visit that's available to her?
Yes, ma'am, she has.
And how many hours does she currently get?
She gets 3 hours, but she has only utilized 2 of the 3 hours visits.
And when has that occurred? Since
When
when was the 3-hour visit started?
let's see, I don't have a calendar in front of me. So we had our PC on January the 24th. So the week after January the 24th. So she should have 3 3-hour visits, and she has only did 2.
So one of them, she only did a 2-hour visit?
She only did an hour.
And did she give you a reason for that?
So she started the visit, and during the visit, she told me that she wasn't going to be able to do the 3 hours because her transportation, her ride needed to leave.
Now, has she been testing negative?
Yes, she has.
And has that been since October?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said she'd done psychological. Can you please make sure you send that to me so I can review it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And she's following the guidelines?
To my knowledge, she's not being honest about certain things, but for the most part, she is.
Okay. Now let's talk about her housing situation. I know she's currently living with who we call Granny. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm
And that
sorry-
one was
I'm sorry, Ms. McPherson, with whom?
who she calls Granny.
Okay,
Her,
I get that.
would that be, is that Miss Rita McClellan?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Okay. Is it department's stance that they wouldn't be okay with having Hazley return to that home?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did we discuss an option which of course I know about if she was able to have her own home, whether it be an RV on their property, but it's completely separate. Is that something the department would be willing to look at as being safe and appropriate, as long as it, met all the requirements of own utilities, completely separate, maybe even a fence in between the house and hers, and a safety plan with
Yes,
the
ma'am.
grandfather?
Yes, ma'am.
Because that's a big deal in this case, is to find a safe and appropriate home for her and Hazley that also gives her the support that she needs from her family members.
Yes, ma'am.
I just, was there a confusion on this last visit? Did anyone tell my client that she could have a visit with her and at her cousin's house?
I'm not sure what you're saying.
Well, when the child got her visits are typically on Mondays.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am. Monday was a holiday also. So,
Is there a reason she thought that she could have a visit with her cousin supervising?
so she was asked that, and I was still getting clarification from my supervisor if that would be possible. And it wasn't approved. So therefore she wasn't able to have a visit. And so now we're having a visit on Friday, due to Monday being a holiday, and we moved the child.
Where is the planned visit with the child on Friday?
It's going to be in Port Arthur.
Do you know how far the Port Arthur CPS office is from?
An hour and a half.
Have you been able to talk to the placement about being able to supervise those visits and having CPS come to that home to also supervise the mother, if that's a concern of the department?
Caregiver have spoken about supervising, and she is okay with that, but the department is not in agreement with that at this
Know
time.
how far the caregiver's home is from my client's home?
I'm not for sure.
And are you still talking about a 3-hour visit or expanding that visit if possible?
No, ma'am, just the 3 hours.
Have the visits been appropriate that she's had?
It is some concerns about Ms. McCullen knowing proper things to do with the baby due to the baby's developmental needs. The baby is going to be 5 months right now, but she's basically 2 months in developmental wise, and the baby has little head control, and so Miss McCullen sometimes don't support the baby head as much.
Does she take redirection well?
Yes, she did.
Do you think that even if there's supervision that the department wants to supervise, is that something we can lead into where the cousin supervises the visits and maybe allow some pop-ups from CPS?
I'd rather see some more the department supervising to see how she does with learning more than her cousin just supervising. I'd rather her do some good visits first.
Is there anything else that she needs to be doing that we haven't addressed? Because I want her to be able to hear exactly what she needs to do so that she can get her child returned home.
No, ma'am, not at this time. Just continue to work her services.
And maintain sobriety?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. I'll pass you as a witness.
Okay, Ms. Walker, I want to go back. You said that the mother is partially in compliance with the service plan, and that is specifically because she has not started her trauma-informed therapy, the victim services, or turned in research on the effect of methamphetamines on her unborn child.
And obtaining and maintaining safe, appropriate housing.
Okay, and the reason why it's not safe and appropriate at this time is because there was a home study done on her grandmother who she's living with, and that was denied.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but the structure of the home itself is safe and appropriate. It's just because of an individual who's living there that it's denied?
It was other concerns, but that is some of the concerns. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. And I want to go back to the visitation because I got confused. I heard you testify that she has had 3 3-hour visits since the visits have been extended. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
And of those 3 3-hour visits, she has cut all of them short.
No, just one.
Okay, good. That's what I didn't understand. She
Yeah.
cut one of the 3-hour visits short to 1 hour because her ride had to leave.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. I need to change all to one. The other 2 3-hour visits, she stayed the entire time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You testified that you did not believe she was being honest. What do you believe she is not being honest about?
She was still talking to Mr. Oliver. She, was still communicating with him due to text messages from him. I knew that she was still talking to him. When I asked her about it, she denied it. And then I asked her again, and she finally came clean about it. She was recently in another relationship, and she didn't tell me until after the relationship was over.
All right. And do you believe that she was being dishonest by not telling you, by omission? What I had asked you was, do you believe that Ms. McClellan lied by omission because she didn't tell you about something that was pretty important in her life?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, she didn't just say, hey, I'm not in a relationship, but she was in one. She just didn't tell you altogether?
She didn't tell me altogether. Yes, ma'am.
And what was the name of that individual?
She didn't say.
Okay. And is it specifically in her service plan that she has to disclose a relationship, or is it more general that she needs to tell you any lifestyle changes within 48 hours?
Lifestyle changes.
Okay. Relationship is a lifestyle change, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so if there's any question, now there's not, is there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you have a conversation with her about your concerns with Mr. Oliver and her communication with him?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. And the information that we received from Mr. Oliver really pretty much came directly from her that he is not a healthy individual for her or her sobriety, is he?
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other issues that you have or instances where she has not been honest with you that you need to address?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
Okay. You testified that you need to observe more hands-on. Let's be specific about that. What is she not doing that you would like to see her do regarding her child at visits?
So majority of the visits, her Granny has participated. When she was getting an hour, Granny would participate in the first 30 minutes. So Chris only got 30 minutes. So just more of her doing her visits on her own. And Grandma participated at least 2 a month or so, like something like that.
Okay. So and I'm asking this, when Granny's there, does Granny take over?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we need Miss McClellan to be a little bit more assertive with her grandmother about who's the mama.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ma'am, you know how hard that is, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And we've all met Granny, and she's a wonderful lady, but she's a hard lady to say no to, isn't she?
Pretty much, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So at this time, you need Miss McClellan to just be a little more assertive as a mother.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is she doing anything else or not doing anything else at the visits that we need to hear about?
No, ma'am, just learning, like I said, learning more about her child's developmental stage at this time. Maybe we can try to get, since she's with cousin, we can try and closer, we can do some doctor's appointments where she can hear what's all going on with Hazley.
Okay. And it's kind of hard, even with a 3-hour visit. How often are they? Once a week?
Once
Or
a week.
Okay.
Yes.
Having just 3 hours out of, I'm not doing math, however many hours are in a week, it's hard to get that hands-on, isn't it?
I guess so, yes, ma'am.
And I'm not trying to trick you in this. I mean, it just is what it is. But also when you're asking a parent to understand more about their child, they just don't have that time, do they?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so going back to the question of keeping the visits at the office, I understand what you have to testify to. And so I'm not going to really ask you what your opinion is, but it's the department's opinion at this time that there should not be any additional visits at the cousin's house hands-on. Is that the department's position?
That is the department's position.
Okay, all right. So you believe that having her be more assertive, possibly going to doctor's appointments, and that's, yeah, definitely a must. What else does she need to do to show the department that she is being appropriate with her child?
I feel like she should, I know she already completed parenting, but just know what her child should be doing at this time and what's appropriate for her. So learning more skills on her child developmental needs and what she should be doing with her.
Okay, so some type of child developmental training for premature children?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because in our parenting classes, they're talk about a 3-month-old as a 3-month-old, whereas we know with the premature child, they have a delayed age, don't they?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you seen any instances where she is not being appropriate with this child during any visits?
Like I said, just the holding of the baby head. But other than that, she's good. Granny will tell her change her, or she'll change her, or things like that. Yes.
Okay. And did she take the redirection well with the head?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And has she corrected that?
Well, we hadn't had a visit since then. So.
Well, during the remainder of that visit? Or
yes, for the remainder of that visit, yes, ma'am.
Okay. No, that's great that she took correction and she implemented changes. So that's a good thing.
Yes.
But do you want her to hear that she is doing very well and you're actually very proud of her?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because it's sad, you got to testify about all this negative stuff, but Miss McClelland has just done a wonderful job in getting into sobriety and in trying to work these services, hasn't she?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Is there anything else that you need to testify to positively from Miss McClelland?
To just keep going and surrounding herself with the appropriate people.
All right. Thank you. And I'll pass you as a witness.
Just a follow-up, Ms. Walker, as to the time frame and being able to demonstrate. And I believe, did you say that 3 hours would not be enough time for the mother to be able to show or demonstrate that, you know, she's able to care for the child or things she's learned about the child to be able to demonstrate the care?
3 hours, yes. Weekly, yes. I'm really not for sure what you're asking, honestly.
I believe Ms. Bythewood said that in a 3-hour visit, the mother wouldn't be able to demonstrate. I believe you said that you wanted to observe more visits and have her demonstrate that she's able to care for the child, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I guess my question is, are you saying that 3 hours is not enough? I mean, it seems like 3 hours is a pretty good amount of time, and also it being weekly. And it seems like that's more time than normally. I guess I hear that, a parent may be getting, usually I guess it's maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, or that time is split up. So are you saying that there's not enough time within 3 hours for you to be able to observe and see what it is that you're wanting her to demonstrate as far as caring for the child?
3 hours is a lot of time if she's doing the whole 3 hours by herself. She doesn't do all of the 3 hours by herself.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll pass the witness, Sean.
Right. Thank you. Any other questions from anyone for Ms. Walker?
Just a follow-up, Your Honor.
Okay. You may.
Yes, Ms. Walker. Not only is it important for as much time, would you agree with me that the more time that the mother has with this child, that it's very important for the bonding between the mother and the child, and that's in the best interest of the child in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. I'll pass you as a witness.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Walker, you may call your next, if any.
No further witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. McPherson, you may call your first.
Yes, Ms. McClellan.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay, so first of all, change of scenery, you made it home, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you hear the testimony that I got from Ms. Walker about that if you have a safe and appropriate home on your granny, which is Miss Rita, property, that as long as it's a separate home
Yes, ma'am.
with its own electricity, not from an extension cord, its own water, not by a water hose, hooked up to the septic, and that it has everything that you need to take care of you and your daughter as a separate house, and potentially like a fence kind of separating it. Did you hear that they would look at that and consider that? Of course, they have to come out and look at it, but
Yes,
they would consider that to be potentially a safe and appropriate home.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And along with some type of safety plan for your grandfather.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Does that relieve some of the stress that you've been having over trying to figure out what the department would accept as a safe and stable home environment?
Yes, ma'am.
Because you went to Jasper this morning to try to find out about some housing, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that concern you to be somewhere where you don't have your support system nearby?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. Now, as far as the victim services and things like that, those are things that you know you have to do. Have you set up your victim services?
No, ma'am. I need a call though. I know.
Okay. Does knowing that you can do this at your granny's house, does that kind of free up some time for you to work on these other services?
Yes, ma'am.
Because otherwise you would be running around to all the different counties trying to get housing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so the other thing is, did you do the research on the effects?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I just said I told her the other day when we had the meeting that I just needed to get it to her.
Okay, well, get that to her, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And get into the victim services. Okay, so there's other things you have to do for them.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know about the what your recommendations are on your psychological?
The Burke Center.
And also it said parenting and counseling.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So have you set up an appointment with the Burke Center yet?
No, ma'am. I'm supposed to go up there at like 7 in the morning, I think it was.
Okay. But that's you're gonna do as soon as possible?
Yes, ma'am.
And what about the trauma-informed counseling? Do you know who to contact for that to set that up?
I know it's in my family plan, but not. I guess I need to look at my family plan and get the number and call.
Okay, because these are all very important things that you need to do to get your daughter back.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so those are some of the negative things, okay? What so let's talk about how, other than the visit you had to cut short, have you made it to every visit?
Yes, ma'am.
And even that one, even though you had to cut it short, you still went.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you were confused as to the visit for Monday. Would that be fair to say?
I mean, I knew that I couldn't go because it was a holiday or whatever.
But did you think that your cousin
Yes,
would be able
ma'am.
to watch it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at this time, there's a visit on Friday at the Port Arthur office. Is that a long distance away from where you live?
Yes, ma'am, it is. But I mean, if I got to do it to see my daughter, then I guess that's what I'm gonna have to do.
Okay. Are there any days that are better for you with
I
your
mean,
work schedule?
Not really. My boss just works, like she's gonna give me Friday off so I can go up there because she knows how important all this is to me.
And that's another reason that you would like to be able to stay in the area where your grandmother lives, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Because you have a supportive boss?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Would you like more visits with your daughter if possible? That could be maybe at your cousin's house if approved?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What is your work schedule typically?
It really I work, all the time, every week, every day, unless, besides Mondays, she gives me that day off because I've been driving to Lufkin to see Hazley.
Okay, but I mean, is it during the day, in the evening?
It's
What
just
are your
It's just a mixture. Sometimes I work mornings and then sometimes I work like 2 to close or 4 to close.
Okay, so you don't have a set one, but
No,
do
no.
you how far in advance do you know your schedule?
I get my new schedule on Tuesdays.
You don't know what you're gonna do Wednesday until Tuesday.
Okay, you can't get help. Okay, Miss McClellan. I know she's there, but you have to answer the question yourself, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, as far as, okay, we're gonna get it out there. What happened with Mr. Oliver? When's the last time you had contact with him? And remember that you have to be completely honest, okay?
Yes, ma'am. That was before I went to rehab.
Have you had any contact with him at all?
No, ma'am, not since I've been back.
Has he tried to reach out to you?
No, ma'am.
Do you know where he is or what? Do you know where he is?
I'm guessing the same place he's been. I'm not sure.
The last time that you was in contact with him, was he gonna do the DNA test?
He was supposed to.
And there's no other possible father for Hazley. Is that correct?
No, ma'am, there's not.
Now you heard the testimony about a new boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you in a relationship now?
No, ma'am.
Do you understand now that that's considered a lifestyle change?
Yes, ma'am, I do now.
Okay, so if that ever, first of all, we've talked about this. Do you need to be in a relationship at this time?
No, ma'am.
Do you need to focus on Hazley's mom?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, would you like to be able to go to doctor's visits and things like that with your
Of course.
daughter?
Of course I would.
Would you like to be involved as much as possible in her life?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, as far as, they're talking about the childhood developmental stages. Is that something you're able to research? Or
Oh,
would
my-
it be beneficial to go to a pediatrician? Do you know how you would be able to get that information for her developmental stages?
I mean, I guess I can research it. Probably be easy.
Another thing would be talk to your cousin about how she's doing on the day-to-day, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And then also be able to talk to her pediatrician.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ms. McPherson,
Yes, Your Honor.
just so I can keep up, the cousin that has been referred to, is that the one whom the child came to be placed with Monday? And
Oh, yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry. And you're,
no, I'm just want to make sure.
yes. And your cousin's name is
Also-
Katie. And so the department, and so the judge is aware, Miss, she actually worked for CPS.
Yes.
Do you know what county?
I think Port Arthur.
Okay. In, do you know what type of work she does for the department?
Investigations.
Okay. Do you know how long she's been doing that work?
No, ma'am, I don't.
If she was to be able to supervise, do you think she would stop a visit if it wasn't appropriate?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Would she be very protective of that baby, of your
Yes.
baby?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. Do you think she would be able to report any concerns she had?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
So it looks, I mean, you've come a long way. You're maintaining your sobriety.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything else? Oh, and also the transportation. You heard that you have to come up with a transportation plan. At
I
this
thought
time, you rely on your grandparents?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I know there's a plan to try to get you your own vehicle. You've saved up some money and it sounds like they're willing to help you. Will you let the department know as soon as you have transportation that's legal
Yes, ma'am.
and insurance? And you sent a bunch of pictures today. I'm not going to try to do this, but you have car seats, you have a bassinet, you have clothes. Do you have everything that you feel at this point that you need for your daughter?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And if not, if there's something that you're missing, that someone says, hey, you need that due to her developmental stage, would you be willing and able to go get it?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. Because she is premature, if there's something to do with a car seat or a bedding, anything like that, you would be willing to get it.
Yes, ma'am.
And you had concerns and about her spitting up in her diaper rash, correct?
Yes.
Okay, but you heard the testimony that your cousin brought her to the doctor yesterday?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you talk to your cousin about what the doctor said?
Yes, ma'am. I've talked to her and she said they changed her formula.
Objection, hearsay.
Okay.
Sustained.
But you're in contact with your cousin just about all the care and the health of your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there anything else before I pass you as a witness? Oh, and this RV that we're talking about, you don't know the size of it, but you'll get all of that information to the department and also to me so I can give it to the attorney ad litem.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else before I pass you as a witness?
No, ma'am.
I am proud of you for maintaining your sobriety. That's so key. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
But we got a few things that you got to do yet. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'll pass you as a witness.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bythewood.
No questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Walker.
No question, John.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McPherson. Any other witnesses?
I know that the grandmother is on. I don't know if the cousin is on. If Katie Lee is present, I don't know.
I don't,
And I didn't know if the grandmother had anything that she wanted to add.
I don't believe that I need to hear from Grandma today.
Okay, Katie Lee is on, Your Honor.
Do you
I do
want?
see her name.
I do see her. Do you want to call Katie Lee?
Yes, just real briefly, Your
Okay,
Honor.
before-
Oh, well, I say briefly, hopefully briefly.
No, it will be briefly. But before we do that, I want to ask the mom a few questions. Now, when the child was born, were you married to anyone?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Was Mr. Oliver at the hospital at the time of the birth or soon thereafter? Did he sign any papers?
No, sir, he didn't.
Okay. Who, if anyone, is on the birth certificate?
It's just me.
Okay. All right. Now, what about any, and I know I've asked you this before, but on your side of the family, Mr. Oliver's side of the house, are you aware of any Native American or Alaskan
No, sir.
membership, heritage, or membership eligibility? And the answer is no, was it?
Yes, sir, no.
Okay, you may proceed.
Yes, Miss Lee, first of all, you are the cousin to my client, Miss McClellan.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and Hazley was brought to your home on Monday, the 20th.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, just real quickly, are you work for CPS?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you worked for CPS?
I've worked for CPS for a year now.
Okay, and is that in investigations?
I was HST for 6 months and then investigation since October. Well, HST till October and then investigation.
Okay. And the main question I want to ask you right now, are you willing and able to supervise visits if the court was to allow that or order that?
I am willing and able to supervise the visits. Of course, you know, as I've told Carissa, I do need an advance to let me know when she wants to come over and everything.
Okay. And do you think that would be helpful for her to learn and demonstrate and to bond with her child?
I do feel like that would help.
Okay. I don't think I have anything else, Your Honor, at this time. The Hazley's doing okay?
Yes, ma'am. She's doing great.
And I know it's too early to tell if the formula is helping to change.
I want to say it is. We actually got some sleep last night, so I think it's working.
Okay, that's good. Sleep is always good. I will pass you
Yes.
as a witness.
Thank you.
Okay, and Ms. Lee, I don't know if the child's been with you long enough for you to transport the child to a visit. Has she?
I just received her Monday. We haven't had a visit yet. It was Monday afternoon.
Okay, if you know, is the plan that you transport to the CPS office for a visit?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Sorry.
And how far is that in terms of minutes or hours from your home?
From my home, it's about 30 minutes. But during the times that the visits are scheduled, I will be around Port Arthur because I do work in Port Arthur. So I will be in Port Arthur when she is scheduled. Like as of Friday, I will be in Port Arthur when she is scheduled.
Okay, so are the visits scheduled to take place in the Port Arthur office?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
It's my understanding.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you. Ms. Bytewood?
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Walker?
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Lee, thank you very much. Ms.
Very
McPherson,
welcome.
witnesses?
No, Your Honor, I don't have any other witnesses.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bytewood?
I have no witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay, in your dual role, if you have any recommendations at this point.
At this time, I recommend the department maintains TMC. The child's placement is continued. The home study looked fine. And I would not object to additional visitation in the home of the caregiver, so long as the caregiver is in agreement.
All right, were I inclined to do that, how, if at all, do you think that should affect the length and or the frequency of visits at the department? Because I want to continue to allow the department time to observe and assess and give the mother opportunity to demonstrate.
Oh, absolutely, Your Honor. I would recommend at least starting every other. So 1 week would be supervised by the department. The next week would be, actually, no, that wouldn't be my recommendation. My recommendation would continue to be weekly by the department, and then an additional day, whichever day the mother is available, for her to actually be in the child's home for hands-on.
Okay, all right. So am I correct in understanding that the weekly visits at CPS are 3 hours long?
Yes, and reducing those to 2 hours would probably be more appropriate. It's not necessarily more time and length, it's more time and days, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
But you believe that it would be in the child's best interest were I to include some visits supervised by the relative and reduce the 3 hour weekly visits at the department down to 2?
Yes, sir. And as biased as I am towards grandparents, I think that mom needs to be very, very selfish at this point in time, and visitation needs to be with her at least for the majority of it. And I know they want to watch her demonstrate maintaining control of this child.
Okay, now I believe we have a maternal great-grandmother and a maternal grandmother. Is that correct?
Correct. The maternal great-grandmother is the grandmother in question. I'm not sure if the maternal grandmother is visiting. She's the caretaker of the other child.
If I were to allow the maternal grandmother, is her name Rita, the maternal great-grandmother?
That's the
Yes.
maternal great-grandmother.
Okay, and she's the one whom we're talking about in regard to visits, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
She provides a home for the mom right now.
Right, and we certainly appreciate that. Now, could you agree to my allowing the Miss Rita to take part in, say, 30 minutes once a month at the department during the mother's visits?
Yes, sir. It's just going to be hard for Miss Rita because she helped raise this mother. So it's just hard for her to take control. So I think that limiting her to once a month would be good.
Okay, well, as important and indispensable as it is, we got to stay in the grandma lane.
Sometimes that's very hard for us to do.
And I appreciate that. And it's probably a good
Amen.
thing that it is hard to do because they are indispensable, but we gotta give mama an opportunity to be mama. Okay. All right. Anything else from anyone else? Sorry.
It's okay. I just wanted to make the court aware that I did receive a message that Mr. Oliver had contacted someone within the department stating that he knew we were trying to get a hold of him. They gave him the caseworker's phone number. I did call and leave a message with him. I also sent him the Zoom link and told him several times that we were currently in court on the case he's involved in, and asked him to either join or call in. And I had not gotten a response.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Ms. Cleaver. And you were sworn earlier, Ms. Cleaver, yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So do we know whether a paternity registry search result has come back?
It is back. I'm getting it e-filed right now.
Okay,
Your Honor, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if she told us the results real quick.
okay. I'm also wondering if there has been a third time scheduled for him to submit to DNA.
They won't allow us to schedule until we get a different contact information from him for him.
Okay, and I don't know if you have that yet, given this latest exchange. Ms. I almost said Ms. Lyons. Ms. Walker, do you have the paternity registry search results in front of you?
Yes, sir. It's no father on there.
Okay. All right, and you're e-filing those as we speak?
Yes, sir.
Now, has he been served, Ms. Walker?
He hasn't been served. The constable still has the paperwork. I'm waiting for the constable to turn it back into the sheriff's department because he's out of that constable's area.
Okay.
So
Okay, so he's not been personally served yet, correct?
that is correct.
Okay. And is that your understanding, Ms. Walker, Ms. Bytewood, Ms. McPherson?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
I just got a message from him. If I could have 1 second, I'm gonna try to call him. He's saying that the he called in and it's saying it didn't start yet. So I need to make sure
Okay.
the correct one.
Ms. Hollier? The court's going to take judicial notice of the paternity registry search certificate. Oh, Ms. Hollier, would you be amenable to appointment in the McClellan case to the alleged father, Matthew Oliver, based on a certificate of paternity registry search result?
Yes, sir.
It sounds like the department has had kind of off and on contact, but contact of late, including this morning. Has said he doesn't want to do anything without DNA, yet he's missed 2 appointments. So, and the Attorney General doesn't want to schedule a third unless and until they have a better address or contact information for him, as I understand it. So would you be amenable to my appointment of you to Matthew Oliver?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So based on that, the court would appoint Ms. Hollier to represent Matthew Oliver, and furthermore, Ms. Hollier, any unknown father.
Okay.
My understanding is he's not been personally served.
I got it.
Okay, all right, thank you. And our next hearing is for permanency review before final order, and that is on May the 31st. May the 31st. The court actually, after the evidence, the court is going to find that the mother is compliant. She's not finished, obviously, but she is compliant as far as her service plan goes at this point. Mr. Oliver, as an alleged father, is not, nor is he present this morning. Mother is present. The court today finds that the department is making reasonable efforts to reunify this family. And again, today, the court finds that there would be a continuing danger, and it would be contrary to the child's welfare to be placed back with a parent today. Now, That said, based upon the evidence and the best interest, the court is going to order visitation between the mother and the child, supervised by the placement, by the cousin, Ms. Katie Lee, at times and places agreed between her and the mother. The mother is required to give any notice or make any request at least 24 hours before exercising any visits, unless otherwise agreed. The court is going to reduce, I'm going to continue the supervised visits at the department, but I'm going to reduce those down to 2 hours. Placement is approved to continue. No move barring an emergency without a hearing. Department is continued as TMC. The court finds this is in the best interest of the child, even for the safety of the child. Mother, I want to applaud you and thank you. So proud of you for having completed a month of inpatient and continuing in your sobriety and recovery and outpatient. Do whatever it takes to keep that up. I am going to allow, in fact, order that the mother attend all of the child's doctor's appointments. Does anyone know when the next doctor's appointment is? Whether it's with a pediatrician or a specialist, because I think that would be a great time for the mother to say, hey, put me onto some information that I can learn about, the milestones and the development under the circumstances.
A follow-up appointment for next month
Okay, all right.
with the pediatrician.
Okay. Well, if you'll, of course, let the caseworker and both you and or the caseworker let mom know, because the mom, not the grandmother, the mother, just the mother, will be allowed to attend these doctor's visits.
Okay, sounds great.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Lee, and thank you so very much, Ms. Lee.
I just briefly saw the baby, so that was a smile.
Okay. Okay. Pleased with my ruling. Was the child? I don't know. So Ms. McClellan, keep up the very, very good work, okay? And I think you know what you need to do. I think you know what you don't need to do. So do whatever it takes to keep that up. And remember, every time we're in court, I have to admonish you like this. If at the end of this case, you're not willing and able to provide a safe environment for your child, your parental rights may be further restricted or even terminated permanently. I believe you understand that. I firmly believe you do not want that to happen. So keep up the great work and don't let it, okay? We'll see you all back again May the 31st at 9 a.m. Okay?
And I apologize, they didn't change the permanency plans, did they? I wouldn't think that they would, but I just didn't hear any announcement.
Well, I heard FRE for the primary. I did not concurrent or alternate. In fact, I didn't get a concurrent last time, so I'm guessing it's relative adoption or relative conservatorship.
Relative fictive adoption. Yes.
Okay. All right. That's the concurrent or alternate. Okay. Mom, you keep working the primary goal, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you know what a life going forward, you know what any life change is that you need to inform the department of, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Going from Walmart to Target, that's not one, but getting a boyfriend or girlfriend is.
Yes, sir.
Okay. changing your phone, changing your abode, that is.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, all right. So please keep up the great work and take care. And you all are excused, and I will sign to that effect.